Here we go.
I think we're live.
We are live. Hey guys.
Wait for some people to start showing up. See if we show up on here. There we are. Cool.
Hey everyone.
There's one.
Yay.
Greg Garrison.
Hello, Mr. Garrison.
More people slowly coming on. Hope everybody's doing okay tonight.
Just want to wait a couple minutes, minute or two, few seconds.
Now, I don't know if you could see, but
Don't
Oh,
yet. There's
not
still
yet?
a lot of people got to come on.
we're good. I think we're good. All right, let's go.
All right.
Well, welcome again tonight, guys. My name's Allen. I'm a grateful believer. I struggle with codependency and anger.
Hey, Allen.
Hey.
My name is Sabrena. I'm a grateful believer and I struggle with codependency and food issues.
That's right. And we're here tonight, Celebrate Recovery, Facebook Live on this, whatever day it is. Today's Wednesday. Yeah, I think it's Wednesday. Anyway, so you could see, I don't know if you could see, we got some cool shirts
Celebrate
on.
Recovery shirts on.
New stuff, new gear that I think you can get. I know it's backwards and all that stuff, but
Yeah, it doesn't work on my Android phone.
Android, Apple, that's a whole debate.
Yeah, all of the national team friends of mine are gonna make fun of that, of course.
I have an Apple phone.
Well, welcome again tonight,
Oops.
guys.
But
Sorry.
anyway, we're here tonight, and so we're
We
good
are.
to go, and we're excited. So some things coming up about again, the summit's coming up.
Yep.
Celebrate Recovery Online Summit, July 30th and 31st. It's all online this year, and you can register at crsummits.com. And every time you register 5 people, you get the 6th one free, and it's $49 a person. So
Yeah, we're super excited about that.
Yeah.
We have people asking questions about registering large groups because a lot of you are like planning on doing like watch parties at your churches if you're open already and you're not sure about purchasing large groups of tickets and you're kind of waiting on that. And you can definitely register large groups and not, even if you're not sure who those tickets are going to go to yet, you can register up to 50 people at a time. Like Alan said, every 6th ticket is free when you register 5. And so, you know, don't feel like you can't go ahead and get that done. And we'll continue to come out with information about specs, about streaming it and all that. One of the questions that keeps coming up is what type of platform it'll be on. And it's just going to be from, it's going to be basically streaming a video from a website. And so anywhere that you can do that in your church, that's what you'll be doing. You'll be connecting to a website, getting that going and streaming. And so super easy. Just got to make sure that your church is able to do that, whatever room you're going to use. So
right. And then also too, you know, the question about we need 1 ticket per person. So we're doing
Yes.
the honor system. So make sure if you got 30 people coming to watch, you know, at your church, make sure they all have tickets to do that. And then, you know, it's going to be available for 48 hours after the summit ends. So the summit is Thursday and Friday, July 30th and 31st.
yes.
So don't get hung up on thinking if you can't make it, I can't make it on Thursday and Friday. That doesn't matter because you're still going to have Saturday and Sunday to watch it. Right?
Yes. Yes.
So this is really cool. Like you can binge watch it on Saturday all day long.
Yes.
And you can go back on Sunday and go, you know what? I want to watch that codependency talk again. I want
Right.
to watch this talk again,
Right.
which you've never been able to do.
Yes.
When you're at a summit live, you watch it, and once it's gone, it's gone. And if you miss that quote or that line, you're like, what did they say or whatever? But now you can
Right.
go back and watch it over and over
Right.
for that 48 hours. So don't get hung up on not being able to be there Thursday and Friday.
Or if you're not going to be there for bits and pieces of it.
Right.
Because you'll
you've
be able
got
to
the
watch it
extended
later.
time to watch it as well. For
Yeah,
for that.
yeah. And we had someone asking about, you know, watching certain talks, like for example, for your CP group, your celebration place people, or the landing, or maybe codependency is the one you want several people to watch that. You can follow up and watch that again later.
Yeah.
Just again, remember that it's per person. The registration is per person. It's not per device, because that's one of the questions that we get asked as well. Like, you know, if several people are watching it on one device, is it one registration? It's not. It's one registration per person. to cover the cost of being able to stream this and to do this. So to broadcast the summit. We're super excited about it coming up. It's like we're going to turn around and it's going to be here. Yeah. So really excited to be with you guys. Another thing I wanted to touch on super quick before we start talking about our topic is some of you are starting to open your CRs. Different states are starting to open again, and CRs are starting to reopen. And we've done some training with our state reps to kind of help them to help guide you in that process. So if you have questions about, what can I do in terms of reopening? What are some ideas that are kind of out there for, following best practices and restrictions and different things? And so please reach out to your state rep to ask those kinds of questions. If you're not sure who your state rep is, you can go to celebraterecovery.com on CR groups and find your state rep in order to get that information. So, all right. So tonight we're going to talk about expectations. So it's so funny. Every time we do a topic on anything, we'll touch on something in that talk, and people will respond to that little tiny bit that we kind of talk about something. This happened 3 weeks ago when we were talking about taking responsibility for your recovery. And a couple of times we talked about expectations in that conversation. And we just kind of really lightly touched on it. And people were like, yes, please talk about expectations. Apparently this is a hot topic. And and we understand why, which you'll hear about a little bit when we continue to talk about it. So maybe you've been to a summit before and you've been to Mac and Mary's talk on conflict resolution, or at a training conference, and they talk about this quote that always comes around when it happens is expectations are just premeditated resentments. I want to make sure I said that right. Expectations are just premeditated resentments. And sometimes that can get people all fired up because people will say, wait a minute, what's wrong with having expectations? Like, isn't it okay to have expectations? How is it my fault if I have expectations that it causes resentments or whatever? And so this is a conversation that there are lots of pieces to and lots of ways of looking at it. And so, yes, it is appropriate to have some expectations, right? I'm married, and it is perfectly realistic to expect my husband not to cheat on me, right?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And vice versa. So that's a realistic expectation, and absolutely nothing wrong with that. And so when we're talking about expectations and them leading to resentments, we're really talking about unrealistic expectations, right? And things that maybe are unhealthy expectations of other people. And so another one that is realistic is that you expect not to be physically harmed by other people, and so you have to do things to protect yourself from that, right? In our recovery processes, sometimes we have to do things to protect ourselves from emotional abuse as well, or toxic relationships. And those expectations are base and foundational and perfectly appropriate. So as we're talking about this, please keep that in mind, and don't think that we don't understand that, and that we're trying to say that all expectations are wrong. So how do you tell the difference? So that's kind of what we're going to talk about tonight, the difference between realistic and unrealistic expectations.
Yeah. So a big part of our recovery, and my recovery too, has been, just learning about unrealistic expectations that I had before and didn't realize that they were unrealistic, of course, being in denial. But, one thing was that when we first got married, that we would be, I expected she was going to be the one that saved me. She was going to be the one that cherished me and took care of me. And she expected the same thing for me as well, too.
And again, not in the realistic,
unrealistic,
healthy way.
Right. Yeah. Unrealistic, and, the other thing was that, we both grew up with alcoholic fathers. And so that whole, everything that goes along with that, we didn't drink. We never drank alcohol or nothing. So the expectation was, because we didn't drink, that our life was going to be good, because what we grew up in seeing,
Yes.
alcohol equaled bad life, no alcohol would equal good life.
Good
So
life.
that was the expectation, and of course,
Didn't work
it
out
doesn't
that way,
quite work that
exactly.
way. Yeah.
We had to learn.
Yeah. you know, uh, uh, their expectations of being that you're going to be happy if this happens or that happens, right? If you get, I'm going to be happy. My expectation is I'm going to be happy when I get this new relationship takes off, right? Or I get this new house or this new car, this new job or whatever. Then everything's going to be better. Having that expectation is unrealistic. And the thing is that, whether it's things or people, the higher the expectation or the more expectations we put on people,
The more unrealistic,
yes, then the harder the fall is when those expectations aren't met. Man, we can crash hard.
Yes.
And really,
it can cause a tailspin.
yes, a big time tailspin. We build up things in our head of the way that we think that they're going to be, that unrealistic expectation, and then when it doesn't come through, boom, man, that's a hard crash. For me, there was unrealistic expectations about her as a wife, how she might keep the house or how she would do her job, when we went on vacation, expectations of this is the way this is going to go, of our kids, growing up too, whether it was in school or activities or whatever, having unrealistic expectations. And what it did was just kept in a constant state of disappointment and frustration because those expectations weren't met. Boom, fall down hard, and then those expectations lead to hurt, hang up, and
Yes.
So
Absolutely. When you talked about the vacations thing, like every vacation we ever had because of this was not fun for me. Like our kids a lot of the time apparently didn't realize what was going on. We've talked about a lot of this stuff. Our kids, we talk freely about all of this, but for me it was miserable. Because if he did have this expectation about how the day was going to go and this plan that was put into place and that expectation wasn't met, like something happened, something went awry, something didn't work out the way it was supposed to work out, it rained, whatever it might be, it would put him in this major tailspin. And then he couldn't enjoy himself anymore. It was like, and of course, neither could I. Well, no, not of course. Once I learned to stop being codependent, I could learn to still have peace and joy regardless of what he was feeling. I don't love it or enjoy it when he's not in a good place or he's not happy about something, but it doesn't have to affect my peace and my joy. And so I had to learn that in this process about not allowing his unrealistic expectations to also control me. And so again, I saw someone had, mentioned what about toxic relationships? Again, I want to make sure that we're making clear that that's not the kind of things that we're talking about. It's perfectly appropriate and realistic to not to expect people not to be toxic with you, but also at the same time, some of our stuff was toxic, and we expected each other not to be that way, but we also didn't know or realize that we had no tools to be any different, and so we had to learn that in recovery. And so what level of that you accept is something that you have to figure out and define in your own recovery, right, in your own process. And so that's something that you work out in your recovery process. So oftentimes unrealistic expectations actually come from this need to be secure and significant, because that's kind of a God-given need that we have, because our security and our significance comes from him. And being whole and being healthy, being fully secure in who we are in Christ, means that we don't need other people to fulfill that significance for us or that give us that security and fulfill that in our lives. Do you know what I'm saying? And so we build that up in our recovery and begin to deal with and heal through the damage that we've been through in our life, the traumas that we've been through in our life that tell us we're insignificant or that we are not secure, because that was the basis of a lot of Allen's anger and control issues, is that he often felt like he wasn't good enough, that he was a failure, that he needed to do better all the time. And he put that on us as well. He felt the same way about us. So we're trying to get that security and that significance from the wrong source, which is each other. We can complement that security and significance we get from God. We can complement that in each other. We can feed that and fuel that, but we can't be the source of it. So I hope that makes sense. Does that make sense? So God is the true source of that, and that's what we have to nurture and kind of work on. The more that we believe that we are secure and significant in Christ, the less that we expect others to fill that need or to respond in ways that we feel that we need them to respond to receive that. Now, I didn't say that we necessarily need to feel that we're significant and secure, because sometimes our feelings don't line up with that, right? But do we believe it in the core of who we are, that we are secure and we are significant in Christ, and can we work towards, reacting out of that and reacting out of the fact that we have that in Him? So we're going to go through kind of some examples of realistic versus unrealistic expectations, and we'll both kind of comment on this. So getting clicks in the phone. I don't know what that is, but I don't know what to tell you. Someone said that we're getting clicks in the phone, so just let us know if that's too distracting or loud, and we'll try to figure out what's going on. So some examples of this. So in our recoveries, when we're asking for forgiveness, or offering, we're asking for forgiveness or offering, we are forgiving others. Oftentimes we'll have an expectation of how that conversation goes, right? Like what their response is going to be. Like if I ask for forgiveness, they're going to forgive me. If I offer forgiveness, or if I offer forgiveness to someone for something they've done against me, then they're going to admit that they did something wrong to me, or
they're going to accept my forgiveness.
Right. Yeah. In either direction, we might have an expectation going in, and then we are hurt by the realistic response. Sometimes the response is very different than what we expect going in, and so it's helpful and healthy for us to go in to do it just for our own recoveries, for the sake of our own health, and doing the thing that we need to do that's the right thing to do, and expecting nothing from the other person. Then we can hopefully start to bridge whatever it is that needs to be bridged in that relationship. And so that's one example of it. Another one is in friendship. Realistic expectation is friendship, that you're going to communicate with each other, that you care about each other, right? If I'm your friend, that's the truth in our relationship. But unrealistically, I may expect you to respond and do things the way I want you to do things in that relationship, right? Like, for example, if that person doesn't call me every day, then they don't care about me. And so I expect them to call me every day to prove to me that they do. And so I put some expectation in my head that says, if they do this, they love me. If they don't, they don't. You probably dealt with that with us, right? With the stuff with the kids and myself.
Oh yeah.
With
the whole I lost my train of thought. I was watching the comments. I'm sorry. Threw me off guard. But yeah, with the expectations of that, that this would happen with you guys, or that the kids would be this way or whatever, and then
that showed you respect or love,
right,
or whatever. Yeah. And so sometimes what we do is then decide, okay, that person doesn't do this or that, and so therefore they don't care about me, and we end up, kind of sabotaging the relationship, not accepting it where it is, and, deciding that we have to make the rules of what it looks like in order for it to be a good relationship, instead of accepting it. I definitely felt that in our relationship, is that he said years after recovery that I never was able to really see who you are, because he had so many expectations on me to be this perfect person that I never could live up to.
I could only see what you were not.
Yes, that's all he could look at, was what I wasn't, because of those expectations. And that's what we end up putting on other people. So in marriage, why don't you go ahead and...
Yeah, in marriage, that we would both do our part. That's a realistic expectation, right? That we're in partnership together, that, we're going to both take care of the house, take care of the kids and stuff like that. The unrealistic part is that I'm expecting her to do it my way. Like, I think you should be cleaning today, or I think you should be cooking dinner today, or I should, whatever the case may be. And that's unrealistic in that, I'm I'm not her, and I can't, I don't know what's going on with her unless she tells me. And so to have her do certain things that, just because I feel like that they need to be done, that's unrealistic,
And it's his desire, not mine.
Yeah, that's a key thing that we're going to talk about is desire. Like another thing that we see a lot is that I'm in recovery, but my spouse isn't.
Yes.
Right? And
yes.
so there's an expectation that if I'm in my recovery, then my spouse needs to be in recovery. Whereas it should be, it's a desire is different. A desire is like, okay, I'm desiring my spouse to be in recovery, but whether they are or not, I still love them where they are.
Yeah.
Right. And, I mean, you think about Jesus, right? And the whole thing of like, he doesn't expect us to make right choices and all these, to do the things that he wants us to do.
In order
he doesn't
to come to
expect
him.
us to do it, but he desires for us to do it.
Yeah.
And the key difference is that he loves us no matter where we are.
Yeah.
And that's because of the desire, not the expectation. Because, I mean, expectations from him, we would never make it.
Right.
I mean, we continue
we'll
to
never
fail.
meet that mark. Or he would never have needed to die for us.
Right, that's right.
He would never have needed to die for our sins if he put expectations on us to be perfect. He knew that was not going to be the case, and that in order to be restored and reconciled to him, that he had to just be there and offer this free gift to us, and waits for us to come to him. So it's that desire and want for people that you love and people that you want, and then the difference of letting them make the decision and letting them make the choice and accepting who they are and where they're at. So again, going back to the caveat that we're not talking about things that should be realistically understood and expected in a relationship. With examples of this with boundaries is that an unrealistic expectation when you put boundaries down with people is that the person will change. This is so common. If I put down boundaries, that person will change, and that's the expectation that's put into place. And boundaries aren't about changing the other person. Hopefully, putting boundaries up will help them see something that maybe they haven't seen. It did in our relationship for sure. But the realistic expectation is that they may or may not change, but the boundary will protect me in a way that I need to protect myself. Yeah. That's the realistic expectation of that.
So we're talking about, like, again, things that we did in our marriage. And, I go back to, like, sometimes I'd come home and I'd be in a mood like, I got to clean up. I got to clean this house, or we got to get this house clean. And I'd start doing it with the expectation that she's going to jump in and help me, you know, not knowing what she's been through the day, not knowing,
what my plans are,
what the plans are. Maybe the kids were out of control or whatever,
or I wanted to chill for the day.
It didn't matter. Like, if I'm cleaning, you need to jump on board and do this with me as well too. So, through the process, get
all wired up, man,
and be mad and upset,
slamming things, and
that you weren't helping me clean, right?
Yes.
But of course, through the process of recovery, that I still get in this mood, like, all right, I got to clean up. Stuff's got to be cleaned up, and so of course we'll go back to the desire. The desire is that she would help, but if she doesn't, then I'm fine. That's okay, because it's not an expectation. The desire, yes, if it happens, great. Like, the desire is I would have $1 million tomorrow. Not an expectation. If it happens, then, that's great. But I'm
not. So is me helping you clean like hitting the jackpot? Is that what you're saying?
Kind of like that, I guess. I don't know. But what I ended up doing is like, okay, so if not trying to clean up her mess, or not necessarily put stuff, because she might have, again,
if I had stuff laying around while he was doing that, that's part of what would make him angry. What do you want this to do with this?
Where does this need to go?
Where does this go?
Yeah. So instead now, like, okay, if I get in that mood, I got to clean, then...
And I do get in that mood sometimes, just so you know. Okay.
whatever her stuff is, I'll just put it in a pile, and, like, okay, whenever she wants, she can deal with that, but it's
he would find a spot to put it in, and, like, this is where your stuff is going to be when you're ready to go through it.
And so, I have to make the decision what it is about what I want to do it for me and not expect others to do it for me as well too. And the problem is that my expectation is what is why I'm angry.
Yeah.
When I get angry and upset about that, about something that they didn't do, it's because of my expectation.
Yeah, the expectation is what oftentimes we do get angry about. And so we may believe that we're angry because of someone else's actions or inactions based on what we want them to do or expect them to do. And yet the anger really stems out of our own expectation that's unrealistic. And so that's why that talk that Mac and Mary have says expectations are premeditated resentment.
That's right. That's absolutely right. They get us into trouble. Of course, like we said, if someone doesn't act or say or think or perform or look the way that I think they should, then, we end up hurting ourselves. There's that fall again. We put that expectation up, we put that fall down, and we act out. We hurt ourselves. We act out in anger, sadness, codependency. Maybe we're punishing behaviors, all those different things that lead to resentment, anger, frustration. And of course, we go back to developing our hurts, hang-ups, and habits.
That's right. So the question is, how do we learn what is realistic and unrealistic? It's through that process of recovery and looking at ourselves, search me, O Lord, and find out what is unrealistic in me. What are the things that I'm putting on someone else to fulfill me or to take care of me that are expectations that I shouldn't be putting on them, or that just let's even just get away from the word of should or shouldn't be putting it on them. What result is it bringing me? Yeah. When he would get angry about me, he'd get in this mood and want to clean everything right now, and he put that expectation on me, he would spend the rest of the day fuming, and I would be tied up in a codependent knot, and sometimes would give in to that, or I would get angry at him. It was like, so instead of accepting and just having peace for himself even, he wasn't able to do that. And so what result is this expectation getting me, and can I let go of it? When Allen talked about hope or desire versus expectations, I had a friend in recovery who had this expectation for another very good friend of hers that they would serve in ministry together. And she and I were talking about this because it kept her frustrated and angry all the time that this friend wouldn't join her in doing this work with her, whatever it was. And this expectation was there, and it kept her tied up in knot. She kept pushing the friend. She kept trying to pull the friend, talk her into it, whatever. And it just wasn't happening. This wasn't what this friend wanted to do or desired. And so this expectation that she had was blocking their friendship from being what it could be, because this person stayed tied up in knots and she couldn't release it and let go of it. So she just stayed angry at the friend. And so as we talked about it, I said, there's nothing wrong with desiring things or hoping for people to act a certain way. For example, I hope my husband or my spouse or my friend stops doing drugs or drinking. I hope that they will work a recovery process. I hope that they will go to church. I hope that they will spend time with me or clean up with me or whatever it may be. Hopes and desires are not a bad thing. They might even be things that are like, recovery for a family member, praying for that and desiring that and hoping for that. But if we expect it's going to happen, then we take away their freedom to choose. And so when we relax and accept people for who they are and where they're at, it releases them into freedom, and it gives me freedom as well. Freedom from the frustration and anger. I can have peace. I can have joy. I can stay calm in the midst of this. We can have a good relationship, while we accept each other. And that's what this friend had, neither one of them had the freedom to make their own choices as a result of it. And so hope and desire is a good thing. It may or may not happen. That's about acceptance. It may or may not happen, and I can accept that. And so really what it boils down to with unrealistic expectations is getting to a point of acceptance. And so again, it's about working a process to figure all of that out. I can't tell you what's realistic or unrealistic for you.
Yeah. And I mean, just working through recovery and that whole process and understanding myself and why I did the things I did, allows me to go back and choose that, okay, you know what? I don't have to think this way, and I can change my mindset, and it changed the way I thought and the way I saw people, especially my family. And then, so when I see them differently, then my mindset can change as far as, I don't have the expectation that you need to do A, B, and C. I can have a desire, but whether it comes true or not doesn't matter. I still love you where you are today and what you're going, and we're good.
Yeah.
We're good.
I love the comment someone said, even having the expectations we have for ourselves, this was big for you. And I still struggle with this as well, but more internally than he did. He dealt with it externally, but having these expectations on ourselves can lead to guilt and shame when we don't meet these expectations that we put on ourselves that are unrealistic. Yeah. I definitely can identify with that. And like I said, he dealt with it externally and projected that onto other people. I deal with it still internally where I have this constant expectation on myself and have to let go of that, have to accept where I'm at and that I'm not perfect, and I'm not going to do it perfectly. So,
man, that was quick.
It was quick.
It was a quick 30 minutes. So, thank you guys again for being with us tonight. Really cool. I think Rodney and Carol are on tomorrow night, the Holmstrom, so that'll be awesome.
Yes.
I did get a text saying that to remind about the online summits as well too, that we do have a Spanish translation. So
that's right. Yes, so we will be having a Spanish
translation of it will be available for that, at least right now. I think they're still working on other things for
there may be others, but
Spanish definitely.
Spanish definitely. Basically, when you go to register, when you go to crsummits.com and you click on register, the first page that comes up will be in English, and then when you click on the register button from there, there'll be two options. One of them is for the English, the ticket for English, the other's for Spanish, and it will be subtitles.
Awesome.
During the actual summit, there'll be a way for you to access the subtitles in Spanish. So cool. That's super exciting.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right, guys. Thank you again, and we'll see you guys tomorrow night.
Appreciate you.
Bye.
Bye.